we want to be understood. And so the number one goal is understanding for both of you. It's not about who's right or wrong. You don't have to even change anything. It's just understanding. Like, that is the goal, to like prove to the other person that you understand what they're saying. Happy New Year! You've never looked so good, baby. Looking good in 2024. Let's go. So, how was 2023 for you?
2023 was a ride. So many things happened. We had our oldest son turn into an adult. We sold our house. We moved. We've traveled the world.
How many Airbnbs have we stayed in the last 4 months?
35.
35!
Airbnbs, guys. That is no joke. Holy cow.
So where are we now?
We're currently in Solana Beach, hanging out in a really cool condo.
In San Diego
area. On the beach, recouping for about 3 weeks. I've got to get some dental work done. Britlin's got to take her driver's test. Brogan's maybe possibly getting kicked out of our next leg of travel so he can start adulting a little earlier than planned. Kaysen's recouping.
That's what happens when you don't do your chores.
Online. So we've got 3 weeks here. We're getting a bunch of things done. And then January 17th, we will head off to our next leg of travel.
Tara might speak a little bit better next time you hear her. She might have more teeth.
I am missing teeth, people. I can't chew with any of my molars because I had 4 of my bottom molars removed. Therefore,
if you hear her talking like this, little bitch, I might be why.
I'm like a chickmunk. I have to eat with my front teeth.
So this morning, as we were discussing what we want to talk about on today's podcast, and we were just talking about all the things that we've done in 2023 and the lessons we've learned. And we're like, we should write down the things that we've learned, the most impactful things, and talk about those in today's podcast.
Okay. Number 1 is communication is hard. Get a framework. A few weeks ago, we were in Huahine, which is a really cool island in the French Polynesia area. And Justin and I decided to get up one morning and go for a run. It's rainy season there, so we were just getting pounded with rain, which was cool.
It was hot
It was
rain.
hot, so hot. And then there are these wild dogs that would chase us from time to time. So Justin he'd carry a rock, which is funny because we were fighting. And we were on this run.
We weren't fighting at the beginning of the run. I had no intention of...
Yeah,
we didn't leave thinking we were going to get in a fight.
Nope, we just started a conversation, got a little triggery. And then before you know it, we were like running and yelling at each other. But we'd take a break. We'd be like, hold on, I need to walk for a second. Oh, there's a dog. Here, throw a rock at it.
No dogs were harmed in this run, by the way.
No, they were not. But on this run, Justin was saying that we should use a framework to have some of our conversations. And I'm thinking we're pretty good at talking about things. Like, we'll talk about anything and we're willing to talk about things. But we definitely had some flaws and areas that were pretty bad in our community.
I don't feel like you understand me, Tara. I want a framework. I demand a framework. That's more like
basically what happened.
And Tara's like, no, I don't want a framework.
Like, whatever. Framework, schmamework.
Maybe we need a framework. Should we have a live argument so they can hear how it went?
I don't think so. So anyways, we're running and Justin's like, we need a framework. And in my mind, I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, we don't need a framework. Like, let's just actually talk about what we're talking about. Like, just quit skipping around it. Let's go. And I realized, like, everything good has a framework. Yep. Everything that is important has a structure. Like, if I were to go play basketball again and there aren't any rules, or there's not any kind of framework, then it'd be chaotic. Mm-hmm. You know, if you run a business without any rules, it's chaotic. If you go to school without any rules, it's just chaotic. And so there was some chaos in our communication. And so we decided to create a framework that would allow us to talk about things in a healthy way and actually get somewhere instead of going back and forth and getting absolutely nowhere.
And then we used that same framework with our kids last night, and it was amazing.
We introduced it to our kids last night as a goal for our family of 2024, because when you are traveling for 4 months with your family in small houses, cramped cars, and you're, traveling can bring out the best in someone. You get tired, you get ornery, you get annoyed with the people. There came points where they were just frustrated with each other and just kind of like on each other's case because they didn't really have a way of talking about the things that were really hard and difficult about being in a relationship with someone else. And so we taught this to them, and it's our family goal for 2024 to implement this framework. And during the discussion, we had some moments where it was needed. We used it, and it was pretty dang awesome.
So as we were trying to come up with this framework, there is a framework that I feel like I have heard ever since I was a kid that has always stuck out in my mind. And I've heard it in different books I've listened to. And again, in one of the books that you recommended to me. And then again, in another book that I'm listening to for an interview that I'm going to do in a couple days. And all of these communication experts share a very similar framework, a very simple framework. In fact, maybe a lot of you use it. It's so simple and so that you almost could skip over it. I don't think many people
use it. It's so simple you could easily skip past it and be like, it doesn't work. But it takes so much willpower. When you are in limbic and you're just going off and like you're possessed for a moment when you're in a fight. You know how that happens? You just swap to another part of your brain that's just like out of control somewhat. And to have to take that train that's just going down the track and stop it, and then to try to understand someone else's point of view. It's so simple. It takes your conversation that would have been like 2, 3, 4 hours or days or weeks or months, whatever. And it's done within 10 minutes or an hour, depending on how much you need to talk about. But it is so simple. And we tried it years ago, but we didn't have the maturity to actually continue to implement it.
Well, it was helpful at the time, but for some reason, since we're really smart, we stopped implementing it, right?
We were like, why should we do that thing that works really well and it's really fast and draws us together and makes us feel understood and listened to? Let's not use that. Let's just fight back and forth.
Well, the crazy thing is we know how much we love each other. We know how much we love our kids. But let's be honest, being in tight quarters for the last 4 months and driving tight, small cars, and it exposes stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when we got to the point where like, we need a framework. Everyone needs a set of rules because we all in our head have a story or a way of doing things that we think is right. And you need to have a set of rules, a framework, a certain way to communicate.
Yeah.
So should we share the framework?
Let's do it. Because when you're in Bora Bora and you're swimming with black-tip sharks, but you're annoyed of this dumb little thing and you can't focus on this epic moment that you're having, you know there's a problem. So...
Or you don't go swimming with the black-tape sharks.
You stay home.
Or was that when you went
jet skiing
and I didn't go? Because I was like, I don't want to go.
Justin stayed home from a really pretty epic jet ski moment because he was bugged by all of us, which, you know, framework. We needed a framework.
So we got one now. So our life is going to be perfect. Seriously, I'm really excited. Like, it gives you hope, right? Like, our marriage has improved tenfold. Our relationship with our kids is on the upswing. I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
Last night was awesome. Like, major breakthroughs. I'm super excited to share this. This should be the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Just share this.
I mean, you and Casey struggle with your communication. Let's be honest. You two butt heads.
Don't tell everybody. There's tens of thousands of people listening, Tara. They're all going to know my secrets.
You're both so dang awesome, but
I have weaknesses.
You both struggle with communicating with each other. And so last night they started to get into it for a moment. And they were just going back and forth, getting absolutely nowhere. Nobody was listening to each other.
We were trying to talk about the framework.
They were fighting about the framework. And so I was like, okay, perfect. Let's use this right now. And they used it. Conversation was done like 3 minutes.
Totally.
And they both felt so great about it. So it's really cool, really simple. Let's talk about it. So basically, this is how it works. And if you want to go and find a book, it's not called the framework. It's just what we call it. But basically, any marriage or relationship book will talk about this way of discussing things in a healthy and safe way.
Not any, but
a lot of them.
There will be a lot.
So you'll find it in some, find it not in others. But this is how it goes. When there is some sort of complaint, frustration, or a disconnect, whatever is happening, someone will usually bring that to the relationship, right? And a lot of times it's brought in immature ways. Like we get annoyed or bugged, or we say something mean under our tongue, or we have these vibes. And so a lot of times it doesn't come out well. So the first area of willpower and patience is being able to express something without attacking that person. So you bring it to the table, and it can either happen in the moment when all of a sudden you're just fine, and then all of a sudden something happens, and then you can feel that discord and you say, okay, I feel like we need a framework right now. Do you want to talk about this? And if they say yes and you're both in agreement, then you move forward. If someone says, I'm pretty heated right now, give me a minute, then you set up a time to talk about that.
For kids, we said they have 3 minutes. I think if you're an adult and married, and you got to give the person the time that they feel like they need.
Yeah. So you set up a time and you talk about it, and the person then who is then going to go first. So you decide, do you want to be the one who expresses first, or do you want to be the listener first? And so the person...
I think usually the person who's maybe the most frustrated goes first. If you're both equally frustrated, then just... whichever one goes first.
So you have the person talk, and the person's going to express themselves without attacking. Now, you're not perfect. You might still do some attacking, but the goal is to say things without attacking during it, because that doesn't work, doesn't get anywhere. There's studies that show if you start a conversation with attacking, it's pretty much doomed for failure. So it's also even better if you start with a few compliments. I really appreciate this. I see this. This is something I'm struggling with that I'd like to talk about.
So I think the compliments work. If there's one thing that you need to talk about in that moment, I think you just talk about it. Mm-hmm. There's another version of this or way of doing this that we've kind of done in the past. And it's basically once a week or every few days or how often you think you have like a companionship inventory. You get together and you share all the things you appreciate, and then you share the things that maybe bother you, right? Yeah. So ideally it is good to be, hopefully you're always sharing things that you appreciate. Because if you're just sharing things that bother you all the time, that doesn't work so well.
It's pretty common though. You know how you just get stuck in these things that bother you and you end up just picking them apart? It's pretty common. And so a compliment here and there, but especially when you're heated, can be pretty powerful because it really changes the vibe of what's happening and puts you in a different heart and brain space.
But I do think when you're heated and there's something that's bothering you in that moment that you're arguing, I don't think then's the time to be like, let me share something I appreciate about, I just don't know.
No, but you definitely can because
you could try it.
Let's say, you're bothered that somebody didn't clean up their dishes and it's bugging you because they keep doing it. And so you say...
You're talking about our son? Is that...
No. So you say, I really see that you're working hard and I appreciate that. And I know you're trying. I see you've made some progress in cleaning your bedroom, but these dishes are still really a problem. Let's talk about that. Like you can naturally throw in authentic compliments. Yeah. So basically the person says, hey, I am struggling because being in a relationship with you is hard because of X, Y, and Z. And you don't necessarily have to say it that way, but...
Or not necessarily being in a relationship with you is hard because of X, Y, and Z. It's more like you really want to focus on the very specific thing.
Yes. And you'll talk about this specific thing, but essentially you're saying, currently this part of our relationship is hard.
Yeah.
And I need to talk about it. And sometimes you only need to talk about it. Sometimes you need to come to a resolution. Sometimes changes need to be made. But we have found, for the majority of the time, just being able to express it in a safe way and feeling like that person understands you is sometimes all you need.
Yeah.
If something doesn't need to change or be done, just knowing that, hey, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. It's really powerful. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
So the person starts talking and says, I'm struggling with this, this, and this, and it makes me feel this way, and it's hard because of this, and it makes me feel this. It's like, and the way you say it, it's important. Like, you are the worst. You always do this. That's not going to work.
No.
No one's going to want to understand things that you're saying that are just not cool.
And the person listening, your number one goal, always, for both of you, is understanding. The goal is not to win. Typically, as humans, we want to win. In a discussion, we want to win. We want to be right. How often are we like, I told you, I knew it.
Or we just want to know that someone gets like what we're trying to say. If someone doesn't get it or they won't listen to it, it makes us a little bit crazy.
We want to be understood. And so the number one goal is understanding for both of you. It's not about who's right or wrong. You don't have to even change anything. It's just understanding. Like, that is the goal, to like prove to the other person that you understand what they're saying. So if Tara shares a frustration with me, do we dare try? Like, let's just role play. Let's say like I usually do my dishes, so we'll share this one just because it's safe territory.
Okay.
But pretend like I don't.
Okay. I kind of want to talk about this thing. This is usually kind of how I started off.
You maybe just say, can we framework? You know what I mean? We're still kind of figuring this out because it's like a newer thing we're doing. So like you have whatever way of like, you want to invite, you want to say, can we framework something is a way to go about it. Yeah.
Yep. So you say, can we framework something? Is now a good time? You want to do it another time? And
hey, there's something I'd like to framework. Is now a good time? Or if you're getting an argument, you're like, okay, framework. It's like, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You need a framework.
So you can naturally move it through. It can be organic.
Yeah.
As long as there's kindness and respect.
Yeah.
So you've agreed to have a framework and then you say, okay, well, I'll start if you don't mind. Okay, so yesterday when I was doing the dishes, I asked everybody to help out, but then I noticed you keep leaving those out. And it's kind of been that way for a little while. And I get it, like you're a hard worker and it's not something you totally want to do and you gravitate towards. But do you think you could really work on that? Because otherwise it just kind of makes me feel like you don't really listen or care. And I end up doing all the stuff. And I kind of feel like you're a waitress as opposed to your wife. So
if I'm being honest, my natural response would be something like, well, you don't do this or that and the other. And like, are you kidding me? Like, I do dishes all the time. I work so hard. In the business. Look how much money. Like, I want to say all of this because that's obviously.
But that's usually
how I would feel. That's how I'd feel.
That's usually what happens. And so then
I'd be like, she doesn't see me. She doesn't appreciate me.
Then I go on my tirade and we just go back and forth.
And I wouldn't be as direct. I'm just saying like the honest things that would enter into my mind. But I would be like really hurt and upset, right?
Yeah. So it would mean he didn't listen to me whatsoever. I wouldn't feel heard whatsoever. And then he'd say all this stuff. And then I'd be like, okay. Well,
and normally the framework wouldn't
wouldn't
have been like, you were like, hey, can we talk about this thing? It'd be more like, dude, what, like the dishes, or I would have felt like some frustration from you or there'd be disconnect and I want to know why. And then we figure it out. And you know what I mean? So there's all this stuff, right? Yeah. So in this situation, instead, I would just listen. And much as me would be like, I'd think, okay, so what you're saying is I sometimes leave dishes in the sink and you're already working really hard. See, I'm getting emotional. I didn't even do this, and I'm getting like emotional thinking about it.
That's how powerful it is.
That's frustrating for you because you're really busy with the kids and you're constantly cleaning, you're constantly taking care of this family. And so if I could simply just take those dishes and rinse them off, put them in the dishwasher, you would appreciate that.
Yes.
And that would make your life, you're like getting teary-eyed.
I'm like getting teary-eyed, guys, because this isn't really even a problem with dishes for Justin and I, but it's so crazy when someone hears you and feels you and validates you. And every single time we've done this, it has melted me to the core where I almost can't handle it. Like I'm almost overwhelmed with how deep it feels. Mm-hmm. And so we just gave you a fake scenario right now, and both of us were tearing up. And it's as simple as that. So one of the rules is you express what you're struggling with, and the other person cannot talk until they say, okay, is that everything you wanted to say? Is that everything? Okay, you got it?
Well, until you know they're done. Like you can usually tell.
And then you
repeat it.
Yeah, I'm already getting to that, but you're interrupting me.
Sorry. So what you're saying is I interrupt you, and that's frustrating because you're trying to share something.
Yes, thank you. He did it right there, and I knew he was doing it, but it made me feel amazing. So yes, you talk, you can't interrupt. And you can't use your rationalizations and your justifications for all the reasons. You probably have really good reasons why you did what you did. It doesn't matter in this moment. Your only goal is to try to understand. And so then you repeat what you think they're trying to tell you. And if you got all of it, they will look at you with this biggest smile, maybe some tears in their eyes, and they'll just be like, yeah, that's it. Like, you got it. And if there's anything missing, you could be like, yes. And then also, if you, this and this, something that connects to it. And also this, if there's something you feel like you want them to understand or just to see you on, you add that, and then they repeat that. And then you're like, yeah, it's the craziest thing. And then you say, the listener usually says, is that everything? Is that everything you wanted to say? And you're like, yeah, thank you. And then you flop. And then, because usually someone has their side as well. That's why they did, or.
Yeah. And sometimes you might not.
Yeah.
Like it might just be a one-way thing, which is cool because then next time if you have something frustrating, like they're more likely to listen to you. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the people I've heard this from is called safe conversation. So it's like you feel like it's safe to have this conversation, right? It used to be called safe conversation. I think they've changed it anyway. But I now feel like Tara and I have this framework. And anytime something bothers me, I feel like I can just say, hey, can we framework this? Mm-hmm. It feels safe. It doesn't feel like I'm going to share something and then she's going to get frustrated and then we're going to like argue for a couple of days or just like this downward spiral. And it's so hard because this person you love so much and care about, and this could be, I'm saying love and care about, it could be with a spouse or a significant other or family members or kids or employees or anything. Mm-hmm. And employees, it's a little bit different, but
it can be just impactful because there will be communication. And if you're working with someone and they're struggling, you can say, I see that this project I've given you, you're struggling with this. Am I understanding that correctly? Like, you can use it within the business. It's really powerful. It just works. I can't even tell you right now why it works. It just does.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, I'll be honest, being in a relationship and a marriage with me is not easy. I put Justin through the ringer.
It's amazing too, though. Just saying.
It is.
In case anybody's wondering.
It's great too, but I will admit that I have been extremely stubborn and prideful and had a big old ego about...
That sounds like me too. We're made for each other.
What it's like to be in a relationship with me. And so I've been so afraid of my shadow side that I didn't want to see it myself, let alone someone else poke it out to me or point it out to me. And someone else pointed it out to me. And so when I get really, really defensive and I don't want to talk about it. And so I will know I'm doing something wrong, but if Justin says that I'm doing something wrong, I'm so dang defensive. I don't want to do anything. And finally I've gotten to the point, thanks to, a bunch of different studying about myself. And honestly, Byron Katie was really good at this, is she's really good with being like, yep, everything that you're talking about, I do. Why not just be honest about it and say, it must be hard when I do that. I'm so sorry. And just listen. And you would think, I always had this feeling that once I admitted I was doing something wrong, it was like I'd be thrown in jail and I'd be the worst person ever and everything would be ruined. It does the exact opposite. There is something about saying, I see you and I admit that what I'm doing that is wrong and it's hard. There's such crazy forgiveness in that, and it really draws two people together. Yeah,
my number one thing, and I think I've heard a lot of people confirm this is the same for them, it's feeling understood and heard and loved, and you desire me with everything. Just kidding. If I got that, I'm good. That's all I need in life.
Well, it's funny because on Saturday, Justin was feeling off, and I could tell. And I knew if I asked him how he was doing, he'd probably say some things about that I'm doing wrong, because I already knew I was doing some things wrong. And I'm someone who can disassociate at times. And when I'm working through something, I just kind of learned over the years to just go internal, handle it myself, and then I kind of disappear and then I come back. And I'm getting way better at it. But it's been hard on Justin. It's confusing when someone disappears. They're there 1 minute and gone the next. And so I was like, crap, he's going to call me out on my disassociation and probably this and this and this. And I was like, oh yeah, well, the reason why. And I was like, nope, not going to do any of that today. I'm just going to listen and I'm going to understand and I'm going to use the framework. And so I was like, hey, you want to talk about some stuff? And he just brought up all kinds of different things. I did what we talked about in this framework and I just listened and I was honest. And we just talked for what, like an hour and a half?
Yeah, probably.
And you just were able to vent all kinds of different things. We came to 0 resolutions. We didn't decide to change anything, but the whole vibe and connection in our relationship completely changed because we understood each other. It's insanely healing and it's fast. It's like way faster than what we used to do.
Most of the things I was pulling from straws, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the things did not have to do with you, but the underlying thing that was really like affecting me, once you said that would be hard, I understand you're saying this frustrates you. Oh my gosh, like that totally makes sense. Nothing else mattered. Like all the other things that I thought were bothering me, like weren't really bothering me. And what was so interesting is I now know and believe, at least for the next few days, as we're, because we're imperfect and who knows, we might go back to imperfect things. But if we were where we are now, before that conversation happened, I could have talked to you way sooner. I could have said, hey, can we framework this? And felt like I could go into this conversation with both of us being able to get the understanding that we were looking for. And it would have saved us both pain and frustration. And you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you were awesome and you approached me, but I feel like now that can even be prevented. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it can even be prevented because I know we can have, just knowing that we can have that conversation makes you feel better.
It makes you feel less in bondage. So it's interesting too, because at the beginning of that conversation, you were like, I don't feel like I can trust you, Tara, essentially, with my feelings and emotions. It's basically what you were saying. And in my mind, I was like, he's totally right. Like he has not been able to trust me as his person for him to be honest and talk about the things that are hard. You know, a lot about being an adult sometimes is grieving the hard things about life. And we're not very good at that. We just are like, we're adults. We should get it together. But there are some things to grieve. It's hard. The things that we dreamt about and got are harder than we thought. The ways in which we got hurt, the ways in which we've been hurt are hard and they're hard to process. And sometimes we just need to verbalize them. I haven't always been great with that with Justin. I've been too afraid of my own self and I haven't been willing to see my own self. Therefore, I haven't had space for his self. And so I pushed that away a lot of times and been defensive. And so this time I was like, I'm so excited about this framework because even today, he's going to learn to trust me to be his place because he's going to be able to say whatever he wants. And even if it has to do with me, and if I have no self to protect because I'm willing to see whatever it is that's challenging about being Tara. And if I'm not trying to protect that and I'm willing to see all of it, I don't have to protect any of that. And so I'm open to whatever he has to say. Now, that doesn't mean, we were talking to our kids about this last night and Brogan had a great question. He was like, well, what if, someone says these things that are hard? Are you like, I'm so sorry, I'm an idiot, I'm the worst, like, oh. It's not that. You maintain your integrity in this conversation, and that's why it works. Because it's honest, it's brave, it's courageous, it takes major humility, but it also takes a lot of guts. And you're not being like, oh, I'm the worst, or you're the worst. You maintain your integrity. So it's very honest. It's harder to do that than it is to go into the pity party, but you maintain your integrity through the conversation.
I think one of the biggest things you and I have learned through marriage books and counseling and courses and personal development stuff is because we always feel like, well, what about the other person? They gotta, it's like, well, if you raise up your level of development, your spouse or partner or significant other will naturally raise up to that level as well. Like, try it sometime. Like, it is impossible to argue with someone who is not arguing. You might try, but at the end of the day, like, you're going to feel like crap. it's like almost makes you more mad at first. You're like, we've both done it.
Oh, we've totally done it.
At different times. And when the other person is just like not in limbic brain, they're just like poised and just listening. Like, you can't argue with that, So
that's the power of sticking in the pocket because you're handling the conversation well. And that person's just kind of going off. It's amazing because it lets them see themselves and then they don't have any excuses to why they were acting that way and they have to see themselves. And it just works well because it's like, dang it, you stayed in the good spot. Like you didn't go to the uncool areas I like to go to sometimes and use the mechanisms or the coping devices or defensive whatevers. You stayed in the pocket. And so it really lets you see yourself if you're the one who's not playing it cool in the framework. And so uber simple, but really hard to do if you struggle with maintaining maintaining some sort of willpower and not attacking, not throwing jabs in the side, not interrupting, but like sticking to their framework, it will be a powerful exercise.
There was this book that I listened to earlier this week that hasn't come out yet because, we're going to interview someone.
Can you say the name of it or no? Is that legal?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, you'll find out in a few weeks. I'm not sure, honestly. Probably. But it was just talking about how relationships, like good, strong relationships, are by far, and I believe in this 100%, the number one thing that leads to the greatest happiness in this life. Like speaking from two people who have had the big house, who have traveled the world, who have done all the things. Like all those things are great or not great. Like
We've
whatever.
achieved a good amount of our outer goals.
Yes. And you can have the outer goals and have happiness, and you can not have the outer goals and have happiness. Mm-hmm. It doesn't totally matter. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, doing the outer things is going to change the inner being, is going to cause you to change the inner being. Because the truth is, to make money, you do have to face your inner stuff. You do have to face your shadow side. Like, go make money because it's going to test you, right? But nothing is more important than strong relationships. So do not go try to make a bunch of money and then like screw the relationships. It doesn't matter. Like whatever, like, right? Mm-hmm. Like the relationship is the most important thing. So put your ego to the side. Working through these things are the most important. We had a bunch of things that we wanted to share that we learned this past year. We're like, let's focus on the number one thing. Because this thing, as we look at all the other goals and things that we've learned, this trumps all of them and it affects all of them. And
by far
builds into all of them. Your business will be better off. Terry, do we function better when our relationship is better or when we're disconnected? And like, is our business, like everything is better, right? When you and I are connected and doing well and with our kids and our relationships are good, like our business is better. We make more money. We have more fun on these. Like the trips are not fun. The big house is not fun if the relationships are not good. In fact, it will exponentialize the amount of misery that you feel because you feel like I got this thing and I'm still not happy.
I have no excuse.
And you'll be frustrated and you'll be blaming each other. And it's like, well, you don't appreciate this and all the things we haven't done. It's like a bunch of crap. So once again, to reiterate the framework, first you state, let's have a framework. And maybe there's a different thing we'll end up calling it, right? Or you can call it, but
you can give whatever name you like.
Whatever name you like. So state that let's framework this. It might be in the heat of the moment. And they could say, okay, look, I want to do it now or give me a few minutes. Like, okay, we'll give you, when would you like to do it? Or even if they storm off, like, that's okay too. Like, give them some space. Like, it's okay. Like, we all do it. But then come back, framework it. One person starts, they state the frustration. And you can just state the appreciation too, if that, in a different scenario. But
without attacking.
They state the frustration. The one person just listens. Then they repeat, not just repeat, but repeat in a way that your goal is to prove to them. This is the new game. The new game is not winning. The new game is proving that you understand them. That's the real, like, if you want to be a champion, like, let down the ego and make them feel like you understand them, even if you don't completely agree. So what you're saying is this, and you say it.
And it's not like, so what you're trying to tell me is that I'm an idiot and I should be better. It's like, okay, so what you're trying to tell me is it's difficult and it would mean a lot to you if it's more in that vulnerable space.
The truth is what they are saying is probably true. Mm-hmm. And if you want quote unquote power, this will give you the most power, but the power to improve and work together will give you both the power, right? Mm-hmm. So you repeat to them what you think they're saying so they feel understood. And then you say, is there anything else? Like as if you already poured your, you're like, oh, okay, I can't believe I did that. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else? Mm-hmm. And then they need to be able to say if there's anything else. And so it's hard because you're already vulnerable. And then they might keep piling it on. And
you have a bunch of stuff in your brain going, well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to be like, okay.
But then you'll have your chance to share things that might bother you.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes you might be with someone, well, they're going to start going off the rails a bit, or they'll start throwing some jabs in there, or they're not ready to framework it, and they'll kind of get some little things here and there. If you can stick in the pocket and even framework when they're being naughty.
Yeah. That's powerful.
You can do that too, because sometimes they're like, well, they're just going to throw a jab in there real quick, and you're like, so what you're trying to say is that, basically, that jab that you just threw was not very cool, but I think what you're trying to tell me, because I was listening to something recently, and they said, if you're in a relationship with someone where they're playing the victim, or they're angry, or they're disassociating, whatever it is that they're doing, they have a real valid pain point. Mm-hmm. They're suffering under there. So maybe they might be chewing you out, but really they're just scared and they're hurting. And so when someone acts uncool, because that happens plenty, because we're all human, when they do something that's just not cool, sometimes you can just pull it out instantly in the moment, even though they just kind of were a bit naughty with you, and be like, okay, so what you're trying to say is that this and this and this, and you'll watch them just melt. It's kind of crazy.
And just to be clear, there are extreme cases of abuse, verbal, physical. Like, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Those need serious intervention. Like, don't put yourself in toxic relationships. Like, have boundaries. We're not talking about that, right? But I don't know. There's a lot of times we maybe thought our relationship could be, like we could go into a story about this is verbal abuse, or whatever, like. But we're not. I mean, we don't go off the rails, like. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just giving a little bit of context here. Like, we have a pretty good, stable relationship.
We're not getting into craziness, but.
So you definitely want to have boundaries. But yeah, if you can just make the person feel understood and like you hear them, it can change everything. So did I get it all? Let them say anything else they got, and then repeat it again. Is there anything else? Did I get it all? And then you take your turn. Just try it out. For us, it's been amazing. I genuinely think that it will change like our life. I mean, we've had a great marriage, but it's been hard. And I believe that you can take something hard, whether it's been a business or a relationship or anything, and if you can make it quote unquote right or better or improve it, all that hard work like just turns in. It's like turns into like just goodness, right? Because how many times have we had like an argument and then we remember all the hard times? Yep. And if you're like well connected, you just remember all the good times, and all the hard times just turn into great lessons and value, right?
And it's taken us 20 years of marriage almost to get to the point where we could actually implement that system. But it's so dang simple. We should have done it from day one. But also no regrets. Yeah. But man, we feel empowered to have this in our tool belt because it's powerful.
Make it a great year.
Yeah, 2024. It's crazy what happens in a year. And it's crazy what can happen over all the years, what accumulates if you continue to try to make better choices and be a better human being. This year will be the fruits of what we started 20 years ago, starting a business and being able to take care of our family and sell our home and go travel the world and then come back and be in a place that we love. Those are all the fruits of day in and day out, just trying to do a little better, trying to improve our businesses a little better, improve our relationships a little better. And we're seeing a lot of the fruits of that. And that's really, really exciting. Every day counts, but also let things go. And not everything matters. One
of the things we were talking about today, heard this many times, and I believe it with all of my heart and soul, that we often overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So don't beat yourself up if 2023 you didn't accomplish all the things. Focus is what changes your life. Focus is what makes you rich. Focus is what improves your finances, your health, your relationships. Focus on a few things this year in your business. Don't try to do everything. Having one pretty good system that you're focused on day in and day out, and everyone's clear on what's going on, that's way more valuable than having like 100 ideas that aren't being implemented. Implement just a few things that help you move and progress towards your goal, and you'll see much better results than if you're thinking about or talking about all the things and not really doing any of the things. So do that in 2024 and 25 and 26, because we're focusing on not just 1 year at a time. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish and how much you can change your life. And the truth is, if we look at any one given year, they've all been rough. But together, look where we are. Crazy, right?
They've been rough, but they've been beautiful.
Totally. But I mean, even the first year we made $1 million, I just remember the whole year just being like, oh, what's happening? And then we just made $1 million. And then, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then they build on each other. And so have that perspective. We were even talking about, we're not necessarily to the point where maybe we hoped we would be after it's been 1 year essentially since we started Millionaire University, right? And we haven't necessarily reached all the goals that we thought maybe we would have, but it's easy to focus on that. But also when we look at the things that have accomplished, when we first launched the podcast, we had 20 listeners per day.
Yes, it was oh wow, so much work, very little outcome.
And now every episode we do, we're getting 10, 20,000 listeners, right? And even though ideally we'd like to have 100,000, it's wow, we've come a long ways. So don't forget the exponential growth. We're not exactly where we want to be on our social media, followers, and all these different things. But it's if you look at what we have accomplished and what we have learned, and you think of how business and life works exponentially, and then you were talking about over the past 20 years, how everything is built on each other. It's actually pretty mind-blowing. And then remembering that everything you do is really an inner game. And where are you in your relationships?
We're building a little team. We've got people that are working with us and the unique people that we've met and introduced to you guys on the podcast. It's kind of crazy.
And then even working with that team and realizing, we should do a better job of tracking what everyone is doing with their time. Sometimes we worry about, I don't want to micromanage or step on anyone's toes. But as we've done that these past several months, not even past several months, it's been something we've introduced the past several weeks. It's so easy to see, you're spending your time here don't do that, do this. And then we're able to see, okay, this is what it's costing us to create content. And this is how much we're making on our content. How do we make more on our content by doing these things through like sponsorships and ads and stuff like that? And then how do we decrease our cost? And as we look at that, we're like, oh, if we do a few tweaks here and there, we can create a business that is what we call a break-even funnel or a self-liquidation business. Basically where, okay, we now clearly for every dollar we spend, we're making more than we spend. And then any program or any offering or anything we do on top of that is pure profit. Not to get into the weeds too much on that. We can talk more about that another time. But yeah, just measuring and tracking the things that you're doing. Our first year, I would say, was more about throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, taking action, because action gives you information. And now we're able to look at these things and have some actual numbers and to analyze some data or some information a little more closely. And that's how you grow and scale. This isn't working as well. Let's improve here and let's try these things. And that's when you start to see exponential growth. Like we've learned a ton, we've done a ton, things are starting to grow. We can now leverage all the downloads and listens that we do have to each episode and go now collaborate with other podcasters that have big audiences. There's just so many different opportunities that open up when you just focus on those few things. And exponential growth in the big picture. So I said a lot there. All right, guys, get after it. Keep taking action one step at a time. Remember the framework. Remember relationships are what really count. Don't forget your non-negotiables. Like what are the things that are the most important to you? But that doesn't mean that you can't keep cranking away. Yep. Just keep going. Life is awesome.
Yep.
There's been a lot of hard things that have happened in 2023 throughout the world. But there's also been a lot of amazing things, a lot of good things. And it's really about that inner journey and where are you at in your life. And as you work on that, that's really the best way that you can help other people. Keep working on those things. Have a great year. It's been a lot of fun. Like we're just getting started. But we're also doing it in a way that fits where we're at in our life that allows us to enjoy the traveling, enjoy each other, enjoy this life that we have together with us and our kids. So keep those things in mind, but keep cranking. It's fun. Business is fun. It's exciting. Making money is awesome.
Yep.
Just remember what really matters in life.
Amen. All right, get out there, go get them. We'll be with you guys. Let's go 2024.
Class.
Dismissed.
Dismissed.